It was just another Sunday evening at the mall, crowded, noisy, and echoing with footsteps and casual laughter. Bright lights from store windows spilled across the marble floor, and the scent of cinnamon pretzels wafted through the air. Ryan stepped through the glass exit doors, his arms heavy with shopping bags, and his mind already drifting to dinner plans. But then, he stopped. Something in the corner of his vision froze him mid-step. A figure sat hunched near the entrance, wrapped in a faded brown shawl that barely covered her trembling body. Her head hung low, messy hair falling across her face, a flimsy cardboard sign resting on her lap. "Hungry, please help." People walked past her like she didn't exist. Some glanced with pity, others ignored her entirely. Not one person stopped. Not one word was said. Ryan was about to look away too, until he caught a glimpse of her face, and his entire world turned upside down. It was her, Emily. For a split second, the noise around him faded. The weight of the bags in his hands disappeared. All he could hear was the pounding of his own heart. She looked so different now, thinner, paler, like someone who had been through a war no one else could see. Her eyes, once full of mischief and warmth, were now hollow, sunken, and tired. But even under the layers of pain and grime, he knew. He could never forget that face. His mind flashed back to late-night walks, shared ice cream cones, and whispered dreams of the future. They had been so close, so in love. But then, one day, she disappeared. No warning, no fight, no goodbye. Just a note left on his door with 2 words, "I'm sorry." Ryan searched for her for months, called her friends, visited her parents. No one knew anything. She had vanished, as if the earth had swallowed her whole. And now, here she was, sitting on the cold concrete outside a mall, begging strangers for spare change. Ryan took a hesitant step forward. His heart thudded louder. His throat tightened. A million questions swirled in his mind. Why is she here? What happened to her? Why didn't she say goodbye? He slowly approached, each step heavier than the last. As he neared, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a $20 bill. Quietly, without a word, he dropped it into the small plastic cup in front of her. The sound of the bill landing made her look up. Their eyes met, and time stopped. Emily blinked, confused at first, then shocked. Her mouth opened slightly, her lips trembled. She stared at him like he was a ghost. "Ryan?" she whispered, barely audible. His name on her lips hit him like a wave. It was the same voice, just fainter now, like it had forgotten how to speak joy. He nodded slowly, unsure whether to hug her or cry. "Emily," he said softly, "is it really you?" Her eyes filled with tears. She looked away, her face turning red with shame. She tried to gather her things, a torn bag, a half-empty water bottle, as if to run. But Ryan gently reached out and touched her shoulder. "No," he said, voice trembling, "you don't get to disappear twice." Emily froze at his touch, not because she was scared, but because the warmth of his hand felt like something she hadn't known in a long, long time. She didn't look at him, not yet. Her eyes were fixed on the ground, her lips trembling. Ryan could see the fear in her body language, the way she clutched her old bag, like it was the only thing left that belonged to her. They stood in silence for a few moments, the world moving around them, shoppers chatting, cars honking, a child crying in the distance. But to Ryan, everything had slowed down. All he could focus on was her. "Come sit," he said gently, nodding toward a nearby bench just outside the mall doors. Emily hesitated. Then, slowly, she followed him. They sat side by side. Ryan placed the shopping bags at his feet, but he didn't say anything right away. Neither did she. It was as if the years of distance and pain were too heavy to lift with words. Finally, she broke the silence. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. "Leaving like that, it wasn't what I wanted." "Then why did you?" Ryan asked, his voice low. Not angry, just broken. Emily let out a shaky breath. "I thought I was dying." Ryan's eyes widened. "What?" She nodded slowly. "A few months before I left, I started getting sick. Fainting spells, weight loss, night sweats. I went to a doctor, and they told me it could be cancer. It wasn't confirmed yet, but they ran tests. I was terrified." She paused, her voice catching in her throat. "I couldn't bring myself to tell you. I didn't want you to watch me waste away. I didn't want to be your burden, Ryan. I thought, if I disappeared, it would hurt you less in the long run." Finally, she broke the silence. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. "Leaving like that, it wasn't what I wanted." "Then why did you?" Ryan asked, his voice low. Not angry, just broken. Emily let out a shaky breath. "I thought I was dying." Ryan's eyes widened. "What?" She nodded slowly. "A few months before I left, I started getting sick. Fainting spells, weight loss, night sweats. I went to a doctor, and they told me it could be cancer. It wasn't confirmed yet, but they ran tests. I was terrified." She paused, her voice catching in her throat. "I couldn't bring myself to tell you. I didn't want you to watch me waste away. I didn't want to be your burden, Ryan. I thought, if I disappeared, it would hurt you less in the long run." Ryan looked at her, stunned. "You thought watching you vanish without a word would hurt me less than standing by your side?" She finally turned to face him. Tears clung to her lashes. "I was scared. I made the wrong choice. And then it turned out the doctors were wrong. It wasn't cancer. It was a thyroid disorder. Serious, but treatable. But by the time I found out, I'd already left everything behind. I was ashamed, Ryan. I had nothing. No money. I thought you'd moved on. That you'd hate me." Ryan shook his head, heart aching. "I never stopped thinking about you. I didn't know what happened. I thought maybe I had done something wrong." "No," she said quickly. "You didn't. You were perfect. That's what made it so hard." The pain in her eyes was real. Not the kind you fake. Not the kind you act out for pity. It was the kind that came from losing everything and never getting a chance to fix it. "Where have you been all this time?" he asked. "All over," she replied. "Couch to couch, shelter to shelter. I tried to get a job, but without an address or ID, no one would hire me. Eventually, I gave up. I started begging, just to eat." Ryan swallowed the lump in his throat. The girl who once talked about opening a bookstore and traveling the world was now living on the streets. The taxi ride was quiet. Emily sat stiffly, staring out the window, her fingers fiddling with the edge of her worn sleeve. Ryan glanced at her every few seconds, trying not to stare, but struggling to process the moment. She was really here, in his car, next to him, after all those years of silence. They pulled up to Ryan's apartment building, a clean, modern complex with soft lighting and tall glass doors. Emily hesitated at the entrance, as if stepping into something too good for someone like her. Ryan held the door open. "Come on." She stepped inside. His apartment was warm and smelled like cinnamon and coffee. Soft jazz played from the speakers. Emily stood at the doorway, unsure whether to move or cry. Everything felt so distant from the world she'd come from. This place didn't smell like trash or wet pavement. It smelled like peace. "You're safe here," Ryan said, placing his keys on the counter. "You can shower, rest. I'll make you something to eat." Emily nodded slowly. "Okay." The hot water stung her skin at first, but she let it run over her face, her arms, her back. washing away weeks of dirt, and with it, a little of the hopelessness. When she stepped out and looked at her reflection, she barely recognized herself. Her cheeks were sunken, her eyes tired, but her lips curved into the faintest smile. A smile that hadn't been there in years. She found a change of clothes on the bathroom counter, a loose sweatshirt and soft pajama pants. She held them like they were made of gold. When she walked into the living room, Ryan had laid out soup, bread, and tea. "You didn't have to go all out," she joked nervously. He smiled. "It's just soup. You'd think I baked a 5-course meal." They sat down, the tension between them slowly melting with each spoonful. She told him bits and pieces of her life, how she slept in parks, got robbed more than once, how sometimes a kind stranger would buy her a meal, but most days she just felt invisible. Ryan listened. Not once did he interrupt. Not once did he look at her with pity. He just listened, like he used to when she read poetry to him in college. "I forgot how it felt to talk like this," she said softly, "to just be heard." He looked at her gently. "You deserve to be heard, Emily. You always did." She wiped a tear from her cheek. "You don't know how many nights I cried, just wishing I could undo everything." He reached across the table and took her hand. "You can't undo the past, but you're here now, and that matters." That night, Emily slept on his couch, clean, warm, and safe. For the first time in years, she didn't sleep with one eye open. She didn't sleep cold. She didn't sleep scared. She just slept. The next morning, Ryan brewed fresh coffee and made toast. Emily joined him, her hair damp, eyes clearer than the night before. He handed her a mug. "So, what's next?" She paused. "I want to try again, start over, get my life back, even if it's messy." He smiled. "Then let's take it one step at a time." And just like that, the girl who once ran from her future was ready to walk back into it, with someone who never stopped believing she could. The days that followed were quiet, gentle, and filled with small victories. Ryan helped Emily get a new ID, something she hadn't had in years. He took her to a local women's center, where she met with counselors who offered support, job leads, and housing assistance. At first, she resisted. She wasn't used to kindness anymore. But Ryan never pushed. He just stood beside her. Each morning she woke up, she felt a little more human, a little more like Emily. One afternoon, Ryan walked into the living room to find her flipping through an old notebook of his. It was filled with poems and short stories they used to write together back in college. She looked up at him and smiled. "Remember this one?" He laughed. "That terrible haiku we wrote after our 3rd cup of coffee?" She read it aloud with dramatic flair, and for a moment, just a moment, they were the same people they used to be. Two dreamers, two hearts stitched together by words, laughter, and quiet understanding. But the reality was different now. There was too much water under the bridge, too much left unsaid, too many scars between them. Emily didn't expect Ryan to love her the way he once did. She didn't expect him to fix her. And that's what made his next words so unexpected. "I've been thinking," he said softly, "about everything." Emily set the notebook down, bracing herself. "I'm not saying we pick up where we left off," he continued. "I know that wouldn't be fair to either of us. We've changed. Life has changed." She nodded. "That's true. But I also know this," he said, moving closer. "What we had wasn't a mistake. It was real. It mattered. And even after everything, you're still someone I care about deeply." Tears welled up in her eyes again, but this time they weren't just from sadness. There was something else there now. Hope. "I don't want you to feel obligated," she began. "I don't," he interrupted. I choose this. I choose to be here, to help. I feel like I'm waking up from a very long, very dark dream, she whispered. Ryan looked at her, his voice steady. Then let this be the start of something better. Not a love story picked up from the past. Not a rescue mission. Just two broken people choosing kindness, forgiveness, and maybe, just maybe, a second chance at something new. As they sat on a bench, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Emily reached for his hand and held it tightly. She didn't say thank you. She didn't have to. Because some things are understood, not through words, but through presence. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel lost. She felt home. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful and emotional stories like this. Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear what part touched your heart the most. And make sure to turn on the bell icon so you never miss a moment that could change everything. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the past returns not to haunt us, but to heal us.